So well, I was making a lot of money, and then like I say, and then I was like, well, let's start spending some money then. If we, so like I said, I started blowing money like crazy. Not blowing money, but I mean, I was investing in stuff. I was investing in factories everywhere. I was investing in products everywhere, and it's like, well, let's start really doing something real. And so, like I say, I started doing it, and like I say, I made more money. Like I went from being fabulously wealthy and fabulously rich to, like I said, I hit exponential at some point. Like at some point, sometime around 1700 or 1900 or 1920, I finally went exponential, where it was like rich, 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 rich. Because I'd go rich, 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 use money. Rich, 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 use money. Rich, rich. Like I'd use my money and get depleted. Like most people would be like, we're bankrupt, ah! And I was just like, shh. Because you'd get down to my bare minimum where basically I'm spending money as fast as I'm making it. But I'm spending it on factories, I'm spending it on post office, I'm spending it on new houses, I'm spending it on new mining equipment, I'm spending it on new vehicles, where it's like, shh, because it can't get lower than that, where it's like when I actually go into a negative, that means I'm actually spending more money than I'm making. But that doesn't last long because I'm spending it on factories. I'm spending it on new farms. I'm spending it on new buildings. So it just goes, and it, like when I stop spending money, it just, my negative is basically because I'm building so much. I was building the whole planet. I was building everywhere. So my negative is basically when I'm building so much that I'm actually spending more than I'm building. I mean, more than I'm making, but I'm spending it on new factories, new fish canneries, new power plants. All the Three Gorges Dam, everything. Where I don't really run out of money. I just, my negative is basically just that I'm spending so much money on building new stuff that I'm actually going into negative. But everyone's like, well, he owns so much, he's good for it. So we just got, because I'm making a lot of money every month, but my negative, so I'm not really actually bankrupt. I'm just like going into the negative where I just have to stop building. And that's when I go, and I like spring because I spent it on building new stuff. So where, like I said, building the Titanic and building all this other stuff where everybody else would be bankrupt. And it's like, where are you going to get the money? And where I'm like, I go into the negative down here. And then as soon as I stop spending money, it's like travel service, new buildings. Like I say, I built all those towns to have a travel service to them. So where I go, where basically I'm way over the Queen of England. The Queen of England was making like $3 a day compared to my, or £3 a day compared to my 17 pounds a day. It's like, well, the Queen of England's making about 3 or 4 pounds a day, maybe, or 2.5 pounds a day, maybe, and you're making like 17. So, yeah, I was like, really? So I'm making like 10 times or 20 times what the Queen of England is making. Like, yeah. Oh, cool. Because I was getting 100% of rock income and all that stuff. So, yeah, so I could literally do anything I wanted. Anything. Like, I could have made like 10 ships, 10 Bismarcks if I wanted to. But I was like, nah, I gotta be careful. I gotta be careful because I could spend too much. So 1 or 2 Bismarcks, and then like I say, the Bismarcks actually came out, turned out to be to be these beautiful things because yes, they were beasts. Yeah, no, they didn't turn very well. But people would try and do a blockade. There were people that eventually started trying to do blockades to try and keep my ships out. And I was like, use the Bismarck. And it's like, it's a 600-foot battering ram. like they tried to blockade the Bismarck several times where they're like, you're not going into our port. And it's like, full speed ahead. It took 30 minutes for that thing to even drop a point in speed. So they would just like cruise up, and there'd be all these wooden ships and all these other ships trying to stop the Bismarck from getting into this port. And it's like, ding ding, yes. I mean, everyone loved the Bismarck because you know, they would be like, and it'd be like ding ding. You know, it's like they're knocking, but they're not coming in. You know, I mean, you couldn't like it was 17 inches of solid hot rolled steel. I mean, it was like ridiculously heavy, and it was ridiculously big. I mean, it could headbutt icebergs like I'm serious. There's one time there's this shelf or something like that. They went up and went right into it, and I think the side caved when they hit it. The side actually cracked off, and a big chunk went and like hit one of the Bismarcks, and they thought it was going to sink for a minute there, and it just like. And I think it did crush some surface stuff, but basically it just popped back up. I mean, there's video of this stuff. It's glorious. It really is, where like this whole ice sheet just basically falls off and goes blam right onto the Bismarck, and it just like tips up like this or something like that. Like, I forget what the details are. It's almost unreal because, like I say, it was so solid. I think it did dent it a little bit. Yeah, I think they looked at the surface, and there was a dent in the surface. A permanent dent or something like that. Anyway, there was some damage though, because it was like this, you know, it was like the size of a house. They said it was the size of a house. Anyway, you should read the reports on the Bismarck and everything. Like, it is that we did some crazy stuff. I was like, well, I wonder what happens when you ram an ice thing. They went right into it because it's like the Bismarck, you know, it's 17 inches. It was 8 or 12 inches on the top of it, and like 15 or 18 on the bottom. There was no way in fucking hell anything was ever going to get through it. Like, you could, they did nuke one of them. They put a nuke right underneath it, right next to it, and it was like, and they said it disappeared for a minute, and then it rolled back up. Like the windows were blown out, but that was about it. You know, it was like those things were. There was no sinking them. They were literally unsinkable. The Bismarck, they said you couldn't physically sink it without actually, like, I mean, there is no way to sink it. It is impossible because it's just so fucking thick. Like, nothing could, even shells couldn't get through it. It would just go boom. You know, there would be like a hole, like a small hole, if anything. Mostly it just dented the hull, but nothing really. They hit it with lots of shells. Like the one with the shell holes and all that stuff, that's not the Bismarck. That's some piece of shit ship. I mean, the Bismarck had 8 inches of steel or something. It was like really thick on the, or 12, it was like 50, like the thinnest spot was like 8 or 15 inches. It was the thickest ship that they ever built. Like the thing was, it didn't need a superstructure inside. It was built the old school way, where the hull was the frame, basically. And it was, you know, it was massively heavy. It didn't want to move at all. Tugboats could barely move it. They'd go, and they would start to move. That's why they called it the Beast, because it could, you know, like I said, you could run full speed into an ice flow. Like, it's not a joke. You could take it full speed right into an ice flow and be like, you know, it would not yield to anything. Jerry was like, it's like Germany, it will not yield. And it just wouldn't, because, you know, it just pushed them out of the way, or the hull would move. Like, it wasn't, you know, it's too thick. It was just too thick. You know, like I say, most ships use ribs and stuff, not the Bismarck. No, that was just a hull. It was built the old school way. Like I say, it could go through any storm. They took it in Category 5, Category 6 storms. Like, it could take anything, literally. It would never sink. That's why people are like, oh, we found the Bismarck. It's like, no, you didn't. No. You found something that was like the Bismarck, but not the Bismarck.